Okay. So, session 1 of our 6 weeks of Pratyahara. You are welcome to choose any centering position that works for you. If you want to lay down on your back and do a reclined Shavasana pose, that's fine. You can do any comfortable seated pose that works for you. Anything that feels good for you right now in this moment. Go ahead and take that. I'm going to do just a real brief overview before we get started of what the next 6 weeks will consist of. The first thing is to mention that we're going to be focusing on our sensory systems. So sight, hearing, touch, taste, and we're going to start today with smell. And understanding that some of our messaging, the majority of the messaging that comes into us from the external world comes in through those senses. And so being aware of that, first of all, that's the first step. But then second step is also making sure that we're utilizing those sensory avenues in the way that is best for us without getting overwhelmed and overwhelming our central nervous system, as well as the information itself being helpful for us and aligning with our true knowing, which is that sixth sense, that intuitiveness. I will be offering variations for focal points to help perhaps assist access points. So for today, we'll start with the sense of smell. And there's a few reasons for that, but one of them being that the sense of smell is the one of our 5 senses that has a direct pathway to the limbic system in the brain and central nervous system. So it creates memories in a much more deeper, efficient manner than some of the other senses. And we associate a lot of places, times in our lives, experiences, and people with our sense of smell. So now just coming to a space where you can keep your body relatively still, of course adjusting as your body calls for it, and then resettling. And then finding a focal point or an anchor for your mind so that the mind can also start to become still or stiller. And what I mean by an anchor is it could be focusing on your breath, noticing the inhale, noticing the exhale. Noticing if you can feel the breath in the chest. Perhaps softening the belly and feeling the breath go to the depths of the lungs on the inhale. Feeling the torso deflate on the exhale. As you draw that consciousness even deeper into the body, perhaps you notice for the first time today that you can even feel your breath at your mid-back, expanding the side ribs, pressing out the upper back and lifting the collarbones on the inhale. Allow space for the lungs to move in all of those directions. Down, out, front, back, sides. Then feeling the exhale as well, noticing on the exhale that all of the side ribs knit back together, collarbones lower, belly deflates, maybe even noticing how on the exhale, really lengthen it out, really let all that used oxygen release from the body. You can even notice that there's a release of tension throughout the body. You haven't noticed any tension yet leaving. Do a quick body scan, just dropping your attention to your toes, feet, ankles, up the parts of the legs, fingers, hands, wrists, up the parts of the arms, hips and low back, abdomen, chest, mid back, upper back, shoulders, neck, skull, jaw and tongue, and all of the muscles surrounding the sense organs on the face, mouth, nose, eyes, ears. If you notice any pockets of tension in any parts of the body, take a lengthened inhale. And exhale, and in your imagination, imagine that tension in that pocket of the body being released into the ground. Before we move on, know that there are other anchors that you can choose if watching your breath isn't a fit for you today and your mind isn't settling. Other options might be to bring to mind the color red, and either at the point right between the eyebrows or right behind the eyes, or perhaps that it floods through the whole body, you can envision the color red. Another option might be to envision roots, perhaps the parts of the body that are touching the ground, becoming settled, rooted, as if there's a foundation into the ground, settling your nervous system, settling your mind. Let's take another lengthened inhale. Open mouth sigh on the exhale. Do that again. Inhaling through the nose and then blowing into an open mouth sigh on the exhale. And then if you're not already there, take your time, but make your way up into a seated position, any way that makes sense for you. Taking your time, moving slowly, settling back in once you get there. For each of the next 6 classes, 6 weeks, we're going to, at the beginning of each class, practice the Shanmukhi Mudra. And it's closing the 6 gates. So the thumbs are at the ears. You can either just have the thumbs resting gently in front of the ears or actually plug the ears, whichever you prefer. The index fingers are at the eyes, could be at the eyebrows, or could just gently be resting on the eyelids. The middle finger is on the outside of the bridge of the nose. The ring fingers align on the top lip and the pinkies on the bottom lip. We're not going to be closing the nostrils. We're just resting the middle finger near the nose. If you want to close the ears and close the eyes, you can. Otherwise, just let the fingers rest. And then we're going to take an inhale through the nose and exhale through the nose. Closing all of the gates that bring information into the body, except for the sense of touch and the sense of smell. Elbows are about shoulder height, spine is lengthened, and shoulders down towards the back waist. As you continue to breathe, we're going to take about 5 rounds, and if your ears are plugged, listen to the sound of your breath. Taking your final round of breath here. And on the exhale, slowly, gently release the fingers away from the face, lower the hands down to the legs, and blink the eyes open. If plugging the ears and listening to your breath is not calming for your mind and systems, then as we go into the next classes, just remember to not push the thumbs into the ears and use another anchor that can help settle your mind. And then from there, we're going to allow the legs to extend out long in front of us. Goes up to the ceiling. If you notice that to extend your legs long, you have a bit of a curve in the back and it's difficult to really lengthen the spine and bring the chest forward, use a block or something underneath your hips so you can lift them up a bit. That can help then. Otherwise, you're going to imagine that the sternum is pulling towards the toes. Another option is to bend the knees and lift the knees up, and that little bridge can also help to create a little more space in the low back. And then the hands are going to rest down near the thighs and take a lengthened inhale, lift the sternum. Exhale, you're going to hinge from the hips, so keeping that spine lengthened to start. Hinging from the hips, gently maybe walking the hands forward if that's comfortable for the arms. When your hamstrings, low back, any area of your body is asking you to pause, that's far enough, we're going to just hold and breathe. If you've noticed the body releasing any amount so that you're able to perhaps go just a little bit further, go ahead and take that if you'd like. And perhaps now at this point, allow the spine to round, gently bringing the forehead towards the legs. And then one last variation, well, there's a couple other variations I'll offer. One is to slide the hands and or the forearms underneath the knees and press the backs of the legs down on the hands, wrists, or forearms. And notice the opening across the upper back and shoulders as well as the hamstring. So that's one variation. Another variation is if this is too much sensation, go ahead and bend one leg. Make sure the other knee is significantly bent and then go from there. And then after about a minute or two, you'll want to switch legs. Otherwise, we'll hold in as much stillness as your body is able to access at this point, and continue to bring your mind back to whatever anchor, concentration point that is fitting for you today. If you haven't already switched and you're doing one leg, then go ahead and switch to the other side now, the last bit. You have your hands or arms underneath the legs. Inhale to press your heels into the floor so you can float the knees a little bit and slide the hands out from underneath the legs, and then hands press into the floor so you can lift the torso all the way up slowly and carefully, coming up to a seat. Bringing the hands back behind you, resting on the palms, bending the knees, feet flat on the floor, and then just gently rock the knees side to side. Loosening up the hip, low back, hamstring. We are going to make our way. We're going to go from our seat to our back and then back up to our seat again for the next couple poses. But we're going to go into a chest opener, so a supported fish. So setting up so that you have some sort of prop. It could be a pillow, a rolled up yoga mat. It could be a rolled up towel or blanket. It could be a pillow. It's going to sit the length of your spine at the distance so that when you come down, you feel, no, that's a little too close. You can feel the prop, the middle of the prop, just between the middle of the shoulder blades. And then as you recline over it, either the head, back of the head can reach the floor, or if that's not feeling comfortable for your cervical spine, you're going to have a second prop stacked
crossways, so it's making the letter T, and you can rest the back of the skull on the second prop. Or if you're on a bolster or a rolled up yoga mat, more than likely the length of that prop will be long enough to catch the back of your head. And then feet can stay on the floor with the knees up to the ceiling, or you can extend the legs long and then you climb over, opening up the chest. And as you do this, the heart energy center is associated with love and joy. So as you take in your breath, as we focus on that sense of smell, notice if you can bring to mind any sort of smell, any scent that either in the past or currently brings you joy. When you smell that smell, it either invokes a memory or tells you that a certain situation or experience is happening, or it's a person that you're remembering. Notice if you can bring to mind any smell that floods your body with joy. So that as we're doing this chest opener, at the same time, your body can experience that sensation of feeling joy as your memory recalls that smell. If your head is hanging to, or not hanging, but if your head is resting on the floor, you're going to take your hands to the back of the skull, and on an inhale, use the hands to tuck the chin towards the chest. Once the chin is tucked in, then you can either roll over to either side or bring the elbows and hands next to you. Keep the chin tucked in and roll up to seated.
Coming all the way up to seated. We're gonna bring the feet together at the center, bottoms of the feet together, knees out, and then just rest your hands on the legs. If it's comfortable in your situation, go ahead and close your eyes. Notice if you are still able to bring that feeling, that sensation of feeling joy. How subtle that sensation was, or how obvious, if there's any remnants of it. If you're able to hang on to what it feels like to feel joy, then the next practice that I'll invite you to explore is to release any attachment to any smells, either in your current environment or the practice that we just did of remembering the smell. Release any attachment to smells. And notice if you can hang on to that sensation of joy. Then taking an inhale, lengthen the spine, pull the shoulder blades down towards the back waist, hands on the shins or ankles. As you exhale, you're going to gently start to tilt the torso towards the feet. Your feet can be any distance from the groins that works for you. It might be that they're real close to the groins, or maybe you're making a wide diamond. That does not matter. If you do notice that the knees are kind of hanging out in space with a lot of weight hanging from the hip, you can always support the knees with a prop on either side. And then we'll just hold there and breathe. After a few seconds, if you notice the body releasing it all, go ahead, move the torso just a bit closer to the legs and or round the spine, let the head start to hang. If you have any additional props that you want to layer on your feet, you can rest your forehead on the props, or perhaps layering the fists and resting your hands on the backs of the fists. Taking an inhale. Slowly, gently let the head start to float if it's not already. And then using the hands again, carefully, slowly start to walk the torso back up. And then here is where I mentioned that we would be doing some down and then up and then down again. So I'm going to pivot to the side. You can stay where you're at. We're going to keep the bottoms of the feet together, knees open to the side. You can either keep the props there or remove them depending on how the legs feel at this point. And then using the hands either on the legs or behind you or rolling over to one side and then all the way down onto the back. We're going to make our way down into a supine Baddha Konasana, or lying on your back with the legs in butterfly. Hands can either be palms down, grounding into the earth, or you can layer one hand on the belly, one hand on the chest, or both hands layered together over the heart. Or perhaps it's more comfortable in your arms and shoulders to bring the arms into a diamond shape above the head. And then from there, bring your attention back to your anchor again, settling the mind even deeper, perhaps on your breath, on the color red, or on that sensation of feeling joy. Release attachment to any visual stimulus and distraction, any noises, any smells, and any tastes.
Taking an inhale. Going to allow the feet to release just a millimeter away from each other and just kind of edge the right foot down so you can start to lengthen that right leg and then eventually slide it down and long. The right leg long, and then we'll do the same thing with the left leg, just kind of inching that left foot down and away until you can extend that left leg long. Pointing the toes away from you. If your arms are above the head, you can take a long full body stretch if that feels good. And then we'll bring all of us the arms down alongside the body. On an inhale, drawing the right foot to the floor, knee up to the ceiling. And then same thing with the left leg. And keeping the left foot on the floor, knee up to the ceiling, we're going to use the hands, float the right foot off the floor and draw the right knee in towards the chest. Hands can grasp behind the thigh or the fronts of the shins. Maybe circle out the ankle. And then draw the bottom of the foot towards the ceiling. Your hand can be on stay on the back of your thigh, or can go to your calf or shin, your ankle, bottom of your foot, or perhaps a big toe grip if that feels accessible today and feels right for you. Any of those variations. It doesn't matter how deeply your knee is bent. It doesn't matter where your hand lands. Just whatever feels like it's a comfortable reach. Taking an inhale to prepare. On an exhale, just gently press the heel away from you. It could be even just an isometric press where you're not even, like literally the leg is not moving in space, but you're pressing the heel away so you can feel more of an engagement and lengthening along the hamstring. Or perhaps there is space to extend the leg a little bit further. One is not better than the other, but just notice and then breathe. And then your leg extended as much as you want or bent at the knee as much as you want. You're going to bring the right hand to the outside of the right leg and allow that right leg to open up to the right. So perhaps it's just the right hand supporting the outside of the knee and the knee dropping any amount towards the floor, or perhaps the leg is extended and you do the same with the knee supported, or perhaps you still have any bind with the toe, the foot, the ankle, or the calf as you move the right leg out to the right side. So opening up the groins and at the hip again, but it doesn't matter what it looks like for your access point today. I won't hold this one quite as long, so just about 2 more breaths here. And then the inhale, using the hand, we're going to draw the leg back towards center. Bring the right knee to center and then gently dropping the foot to the floor. Shifting the knees side to side, windshield wipers with the legs. Slowly stilling them and bringing them back to center. And then this time on the inhale, the left foot floats up and up, and you bring the left knee towards the chest. Hands can either rest behind the thigh or the shin. If it feels good on this side, rotate the ankle. And then eventually bringing the bottom of the foot to face the ceiling. From there, same thing as what we just did on the other side. So you find for the left leg, does the hand want to be on the thigh, the calf and shin, the ankle, the toe, the foot? Might feel very different than the first side. So you're going to let your body guide you to what is best on this side. And then keeping that knee bent as much as the left leg prefers. Pressing energetically out through the left heel. So it might just, again, be that isometric movement where the limb is not actually moving, but you feel the lengthening on the hamstring, or perhaps the heel does press to the ceiling and you extend the leg as much as it wants to. And then again, starting with the knee mostly bent, bringing the left hand to the outside of the left thigh and knee, and allow that left leg to start to fall over to the left. And then either with the knee fully bent and resting the outside of the leg in the hand, opening up the hip, or the leg can be extended as much as is appropriate on this side. Opening out that inside of the groin area, still some hamstring, and supporting the hip. And again, just 2 more breaths here. And then your natural inhale, using your hand, drawing that leg into the chest. And letting the right knee float up to meet it. Hands on the fronts of the shins or behind the thighs, and just kind of rocking side to side or drawing circles with the knees so you can get the full range of massage across the pelvis and low back. Drawing a circle one direction and then the other. And then holding the knees towards center. From here, I'm going to take one of those blocks or whatever prop you have at home. You're going to have it alongside your hips. You can keep the knees tucked down and in towards you, or extend the legs up, bottoms of the feet to the ceiling, legs up an imaginary wall, so that the weight of the heels, the weight of the legs are stacked on the foundation of the hips and pelvis. So either of those variations, you're welcome to stay there, either with the legs straight, hips on the ground, or hips on the ground and the knees bent. If you would like to use the block underneath the hips, come into just a little bit more of an inversion. We're going to drop the feet to the floor. Bottoms of the feet are the foundation as you take an inhale and float the hips up. Slide whatever prop you're using right underneath that bony plate of the sacrum. And then gently one leg at a time. Start to draw the knees back in. And from there, you can keep the knees bent or lengthen them long. So any variation with the prop or without it, knees bent or legs extended. And then breathe here. Take the lengthened inhale. Your exhale slowly draws the knees down into the chest. And then if you're on a prop, lowering one foot at a time carefully. If you're not on a prop, also lowering one foot at a time. And then pressing into the bottoms of the feet to inhale, float the hips. Slide the prop out. Lower the whole backside of the body down to the ground and extend the legs long. So we're going to come into final rest. You are welcome to stay here in this supine variation. Palms down, perhaps legs extended and feet turned out so that the ankles and hips can relax and release. If you prefer to lay on your side or your belly, or you prefer a seated position with the back supported, all of those variations are your choice. And then back to your anchor. So for the final few minutes, that might be your breath. It might be coming back to that sensation of joy, feeling that sensation in the body. Or it may be focusing on the color red in your mind, or any other anchor that works for you.
If you're on your back, bringing small movements to the body, starting to deepening the breath again. If you are in a different final resting pose, then again, bringing small movements and drawing your awareness back to your present environment. This practice of Pratyahara is based on the premise that there's a foundation of first, how we show up in the world. Our motives, our intentions, the energy that we bring, how we interact with others and other creatures, which in turn impacts how we're relating to ourself, our self-study, our connection to creation, which then the next phase is that movement phase, that asana, the postures, the physical moving of the body to release tension, stuck energy, better create spaces so that the body can sit with ease. And then from there, there's the breath practice, the pranayama, that modulation of energy, keeping our energy balanced so that we're not fatigued and not chaotic. And then the next step is pratyahara, meaning sense refinement, how we interface with the messages from our senses. If you're not already there, make your way to a seated position. Hands can either be down on the legs or bring the hands together and press the base of the palms right at the base of the sternum, helping to engage that vagal nerve. Taking a lengthened inhale, bring to mind a moment of gratitude. First, for those that have been willing to share this practice of yoga from their culture so that we could benefit today across the world. Thanking those in ancient and present day India that still foster this practice. And on the exhale, gently lower the chin. Om Shanti, peace. Blink the eyes open. Come back to your environment. If you're wanting some practice outside of class on Pratyahara, on that sense of smell, it may be that you can go through your day and start to notice the subtle smells that are in your environment that you don't ever pay attention to, and really start to tune in and then release attachment to it. So we tend to either be really attached and like a smell or really adverse and try to stay away from a smell. But let those messages of what is really like agitating our mind or our body start to be a little bit more even and less disruptive and distracting. So you can, it's both and, it's both becoming really aware and refining which smells you notice, but at the same time, not being attached to it. And then from there, you work into more mindfulness practices. It's a whole thing. Thank you very much. Have a fabulous rest of your day.